Alright, so welcome to the next video. Today we're going to be doing project number 4. And project number 4 is like what you see right here in front of me, where you have in box number 1 a light switch controlling a lamp. And then on box number 3, you have a duplex outlet. Now the duplex outlet is going to have 100% power. Something that you're going to notice over here in box number 1 is that we have a little jump wire going from our power coming in, going directly over to our light switch. I don't normally like to do little jump wires, but for this type of project, what we wind up doing is that for that power in order for the anybody that's looking to test out this particular project, this little simulator, what we have is we have a cord cap right at the very end. And that cord cap, of course, is only 3-prong, and with this 12-3 wire, it is unable to, of course you can't have the 2 hot wires wired into that 3-prong outlet. So what we wind up doing is we just pull out the red wire, only leaving the black, the white, and the ground, so only 3 wires. So what we wind up doing is just take a little jump wire, tie it into the black wire coming in, that little jump red wire going over to our light switch, and of course having that little jump wire allows you to be able to have your incoming black wire tied into another hot wire that could be able to relay all the way over to your outlet and still have 100% power. Now, why is that? Why can't I just have a hot wire that goes up? Because I have the ability to just tie in another hot wire that goes from my light switch to my lamp, and then of course go over to my outlet. Why can't I do that? Well, if I were to have a hot wire go from directly from switch to lamp all the way over to the outlet, well, if I were to turn on my lamp, yes, I'll have power running over to my outlet. But the second I go to turn off my light will go off, as well as my outlet. So I have to have a completely separate wire that allows me to have 100% power going over to my outlet. So you can't have the same wire going over to controlling your switch and lamp. You can't have the same wire controlling that lamp control that outlet. It has to be on a separate wire, and you'll see that in this demonstration. Okay, so couple of things to be able to point out would be, of course, my neutrals. I got a neutral that's relaying all the way from my power in box 1. I tie it into my lamp, and that same neutral is going over to my outlet in box number 3. And of course, in box number 3, you notice I have just only 2 wires, 1 hot, 1 neutral. Just like how I mentioned in the beginning, this is a duplex outlet. If I were to have one single wire, of course, that wire that's tied into this terminal here is also connected to that terminal there, allowing me to have power in both of my portions of my outlet. Okay, so how do we get there? This is my Betty Crocker project here. So how do I get to that portion? How do I get that complete project? Start from the beginning. As I've stated in previous videos, always start with box number 1. Okay, start with that first portion, and that's going to be my toggle switch, my single pole. And I kind of sped things up. It takes a little bit of some time in order to get that jump wire tied in, so I kind of sped things up. So I'll tie in. Be sure to have your pigtails facing clockwise. Otherwise, they're going to be pointed counterclockwise the second you go to turn your terminal that's going to push out your wire. It's not going to lock in. Okay, there's one terminal. And the perk of having that 12-3 cable allows you to be able to kind of color code, and you're not going to be crossing up and confusing yourself when it comes to, okay, what wires go into what appliance, okay? So I got my black wires here. I'm going to save that for just strictly my light control in the lamp. So I'll tie in my black wire over to my toggle switch, my single pole, single throw. All right, so now I have my wires tied into my single pull, single throw, and now I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to relay it, complete that first project. That is our light switch controlling our lamp. And notice I didn't tie in the grounds. You know, for me, I like starting off with, start with the hots, then work into the neutrals, complete the grounds last. Kind of makes it a little bit easier. I'm not confusing myself, getting myself crossed up. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start wiring in my lamp holder. Again, I'm using the black wires for this portion. And notice on one thing before I got to wire this in, notice on this lamp holder, I have 4 different terminals here. I got my hots, I got my neutrals. And notice I got my 2 terminals here that are hot. That allows me to be able to, if I have an outlet that I want to tie into this, that I want to have as a half hot, I have an outlet that's controlled by a light switch, I could do that. But in this case, I want to have 100% power on my outlet, so I won't have a second wire tied into that hot. I will only use one of these terminals. But on this neutral here, they're both connected. I could tie into that, no problem, and have 2 neutral wires, one going from my outlet and then go from my outlet to my lamp holder back over to box number 1. I could be able to do that, not a problem at all. But in this case, for my hots, I'm only going to use 1 wire, 1 terminal, and of course for this, if this were an actual scenario, that second black wire that I'll have in box number 2, I'll get that out of the way. But in this case, for a simulation like this, and for various projects I have for this particular lesson, I'll move it out of the way, okay? But I'm not going to tie in my 2 red wires. And these red wires, they are relayed over to box number 3 that goes to an outlet. I'm going to strip off a little bit of some wire for the reds. And then I'll go ahead and I'll just tie it in. Again, you're using separate wire here from the black wire that's tied into your lamp holder, okay? So I got all of my hots are tied in between my box number 1, box number 2, and then of course I'm relaying that power that goes from box number 1 in order to get 100% power over to my outlet. Now I'm going to be using a black wire that's set aside. I'm going to use that red wire that's tied in. Be sure to have those pigtails facing clockwise. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie in my neutrals. I got all of my hots are connected between the 3 boxes. I'm going to go ahead, start up my neutrals. Doesn't matter what terminal I tie in my neutrals of my hots, it does not matter. Because remember, when it comes to these outlets, there is a little tab that sits on either side. You see that brass tab that's at the very top and the bottom where my fingers are pointing. Those tabs are there in order for you to have connection, power running between these 2 terminals, okay? Remember that from previous videos. So, long story short, doesn't matter what one I tie into, because those 2 terminals, they're connected. All right, so now I got my my hot and my neutral tied in my outlet. Let's move on to box number 2. Take these 2 terminals, take a wire nut, just keep twisting until you can't twist anymore. No chance of it coming undone. Then I have my neutrals in box number 1. There we have my neutrals. Last thing to take care of would be my grounds. We'll ground the light switch. I don't like the looks of that pigtail. It looks a little bit wide. I'll just take that out. So again, you don't want to have any wire that's going to be sticking out. No chance of it coming undone from the terminal. Make sure your pigtails are nice and tight. So yeah, like that pigtail right there, maybe a little bit wide. So if I ever want to be able to make it a little bit tighter, no need of completely straightening it out and redoing a pigtail. Just take your little wire strippers, just pinch it closer. Box number 2, there are no grounds on my outlet. However, I did notice I made a mistake. Pretty big one at that. I don't need a wire nut on this one because I'm utilizing this lamp as actually my wire nut. So I goofed. So I'm going to make a pigtail on either one of these 2. So I got one pigtail on one terminal. Here's my second pigtail for the second terminal. Again, these two terminals, they are connected together. If they were to be, because you do get those lamp holders that only have one single terminal. In that kind of scenario where you do have like neutrals that need to be relayed between multiple boxes, you can always just have that little jump like what we have with the hot wires in box number 1 in order to relay that neutral coming back over to box number 1. And you may have that luxury like this here, where you have a lamp holder that has 2 neutral terminals and allows you to be able to have connection between one neutral to another. And again, I wouldn't be doing this with my hot wires because in this scenario, I want 100% power going over to my outlet. And I would not want to have a wire on either one of the 2 hot terminals, just one. Okay. All right, we avoided a crisis. So I have connection between my 2 neutrals. Again, I'm not having a ground. Okay, we're done with box number 2. And on to box number 1. And there I have a couple grounds. Utilize a grounding wire nut and create a pigtail on my outlet. There we have it, ground on my outlet. So to conclude this project, what I have here, box number 1, a single pole, single throw, also known as a toggle switch, that controls a lamp holder. At the same time that I have power between these 2, I have 100% power that's relayed from box number 1 over to my duplex outlet. So that concludes project number 4.